Comp titles, the bane of an aspiring author's existence. You have polished your query letter within an inch of its life. You got your list of agents, you have several versions of your synopsis, you sit down at Query Tracker, upload all your files, think you're ready to go, and then you get to that box that says, list 3 to 5 comp titles. And you drop your head on your desk in despair and wail, why? Why? Maybe that was just me. It is actually really common nowadays for agents, editors to ask you to list your comp titles to whatever manuscript you're pitching. So comp titles, from what I have heard from mentors and other people in the industry, it's basically a book that is similar to yours, that has the same vibe or the same heat level, same spice level, same kind of voice, same kind of themes, maybe similar setup, similar genre. That's within the last, it's pretty recent, so it's been published within the last 5 years and is well known, has hit some bestseller lists. So it's one that's easily recognizable. So people kind of know what you're talking about when you mention that book. And it's a way of positioning your book in the market and targeting readers and, pitching your book to people who might be interested in representing you or publishing your book. And I am in the process now of updating my comp titles for my manuscripts because the manuscript that I got my agent with is sadly kind of dead in the water right now. So that was hard to accept and hard to talk about because I love that manuscript so much. It's been my heart for the last several years. But there's still hope. And so I'm sort of keeping myself in touch with that manuscript and, looking out for opportunities to resurrect it, because I'm sure that someday it'll be something that it'll be the right time, the right story at the right time. So in the meantime, I want to keep up on potential comps, what I think are potential comps for that manuscript, and keep reading them and exploring who those readers are and who those editors are. And at the same time, if you watched my how I got my agent video, I talked about a manuscript that I had completed before, my first completed manuscript in my current genre of romantic fiction. And that one, I queried it quite a few places, just did not get any traction, and also got the feedback, it's too long, need to restructure it. So I put that one aside and I wrote the manuscript that I got my agent with. So when my agent was talking to me after she gave me the news that this manuscript is kind of not happening right now, what else you got? I mentioned the manuscript I'm currently working on, and then I mentioned the one that I had written before. And she said, actually, that one sounds like it might be a good fit for the market right now. Send it to me in its current state, even though it's too long, and we will start looking at, potentially trying to place that one. So since that one is now back, I am now, because when I left that one, when I left it, it was a different market. It was different. It was a while ago. It was a few years ago. I'm just going to leave it at that. So now I really need to up my comps for that manuscript, because I'm going to be re-editing it. I'm going to be talking about that one, and I want to know what else is going on that might be similar to this one. And one, study sort of how those books are structured so I can get some ideas of what I need to cut in my manuscript, and also figure out, what editors might be a good fit for this manuscript. So I am updating my comps. Now, for me, currently, when I'm looking for comps, I'm looking for books that are romantic, have a heavy romantic through line. I'm looking for books that deal with things like trying to get through college, trying to figure out if you're going to follow your head or your heart as far as your career path. I'm looking at stories that have love triangles, because two of my manuscripts have a love triangle, and the other one has like a threesome. I really like the rule of 3, y'all. That is my thing. So I'm looking for love triangles. I'm looking for college age themes, or struggling to get through college. I'm looking for stories about figuring out what it is you really want in life and how you're going to balance what you want with the kind of relationship you want and what kind of partner you want. And Also, I'm looking for books that have like some heat, because my books have some heat. So that's kind of what I'm looking for right now with some comps. So in this video, we're going to take a little trip to Barnes & Noble so I can kind of get my hands on some of these books that I think might be comps. I've mentioned this before in another vlog, but when I look for comps, I keep a big old Google spreadsheet where I keep a track of all my books so that I can access it anytime, any place. And I will sit down once a week and go through all my emails and all my leads, all my notes about books that I've heard of. And I'll write down, the usual name, author, publisher, but I'll also note like if I think it's a comp for a certain book, and I'll note some tropes so that I can look at it at a glance and be like, oh, that's why I want to read that book. It's got a love triangle. Oh, that's why I want to read that book. It's got stalking. Oh, that's why I want to read that book. It has like some nostalgia vibes, whatever. So I have I perused my list and I picked out some books that I think I kind of want to check out. So going to Barnes & Noble, looking at the books, getting them in my hands, looking at the blurbs, where they're positioned in the bookstore, who the editors are, and then coming back home and spending a few days going through those books in more detail, like on Goodreads and Storygraph, and seeing what kind of genre they're given, more of how they're being marketed, and really narrow down my list of books that I want to check out first to build up current comp titles for my manuscripts. So we're going to start off with a little trip to Barnes & Noble. Go to Storygraph. Okay, so I first heard about Heart the Lover because an earlier book of hers was used in a comp. So an example of the comp is Hot Desk says The Hating Game meets Writers and Lovers. So this is an example of these two books being used as comps, but also being used as like a high level pitch. Another really great one is, this is one that got me interested in Rosenfeld. I don't know if it's even in the description. It might have been in the marketing of the email. Rosenfeld. So Rosenfeld says, which I thought would be a potential comp for my second manuscript, which is what I call the erotic, actually I didn't call it this. My president of my writers group called it, the erotic Cinderella. I'm like, love. So this one, Rosenfeld by Maya Kessler, says a brazenly sexy and scathingly candid novel about a white-hot relationship and the two intractable characters who emerge from it transformed. So where did we leave off? I had to cut everything short yesterday because I got a sudden migraine. Come on. No warning. That was fun. Spent most of the rest of the day laid up on the couch, but we are back at it now looking at comps. I'm actually kind of doing double duty and looking at comps for my manuscript that I got my agent with. That is kind of dead in the water right now, but I still want to keep doing the research to find other comps and maybe see what else is out there as far as publishers. And then I'm also doing comp research for the manuscript that is from the before times that my agent actually thinks has a chance in this current market. So that one's the one that we'll call the 90s Summer Fling. Okay, so for the first one, the one that's more on the sexy erotic side, I was looking at Rosenfeld. I got wind of this through an email from Simon & Schuster, and it said, here's another example of comps, because it said in that email, for readers of Luster, All Fours, and Vladimir. And then later it says, for fans of Sex and the City, Raven Leilani's Luster and Coco Malore's Cleopatra and Frankenstein according to the Millions. So those are all things that are kind of in the same wheelhouse as my manuscript. Particularly Luster. It's interesting that Luster is mentioned twice because Luster is actually a comp that I used in my query. I used Luster because it was about a Black artist, a young woman who's an artist who kind of gets involved in sort of this erotic triangle and just trying to figure herself out. My story has a much different tone and it's a different story altogether, but there were those similar things. A lot of the blurbs talked about how it was sexy and all that. So that is one, and it was beautifully written. Oh my gosh, I made so many notes, I just lost track and ended up having to buy the book, and I need to actually go in and just annotate it. Anyway, so that is why I have Rosenfeld on my list as a book to check out and be a potential comp. I already created a spread for one of the manuscripts. Now I need to do one for the other one. We are back just like that on the fly. I created the comps spread for my other manuscript, and I put the title here with a little checkbox, so the checkbox I can check that when I've read it. And then I'm just going to add brazenly sexy. That's how it's being described. And I would love for my book to be described as brazenly sexy. What a win. All right, and then compared to Luster, All Fours, and Cleopatra and Frankenstein, which is another book I've heard about, and Sex and the City. Easily recognizable comparison there. Okay, so now, also it was called an erotic thriller as well. I forgot about that part. And I think that my story has some DNA from the erotic thriller genre. As a matter of fact, my dev editor called it 9.5 Weeks with a Happy Ending. And I'm like, yeah, I can work with that. I think that fits. Speaking of All Fours, I'm going to check that one out too. That's one I haven't read yet and absolutely should have. As a matter of fact, a friend of mine, so this was a book that I have not read, but I've heard about. New York Times had a article about how that book had sparked so many group chats and conversations amongst women of a certain stage in their life, who really enjoyed that the book made them think and examine their sexual lives. And that, I think, is kind of something that my agent was thinking that my book would do as well, that it could be in the book club category because it touches on, explores and interrogates issues of female sexuality and autonomy and desire and pleasure and all of those things. But I've also heard that one booktuber I follow said that All Fours was, so he's British and he called it Marmite, and I'm like, I have never heard anybody use that to describe a book. I had to look it up, and what it basically means is that the book is polarizing in that people either love it or they hate it. So, I mean, that's better than indifference, right? So, I don't know if I finished saying that my friend sent me the article in the New York Times about this book. So I'm like, okay, this is a book that's even causing this, even on the radar of my friend who doesn't read that much. Definitely doesn't read in my genre. So this is, oh, and it was also in the New York Times 2024 top 10. So this is definitely one to check out. See if I think it's comparable. So I'm going to put All Fours. Okay. Semi-famous artist announces her plan to drive cross country from LA to New York, but spontaneously exits and holds up in a hotel. I think it's about sort of realizing that she just needs some time to herself. All Fours tells the story of one woman's quest for a new kind of freedom. Part absurd entertainment, part tender reinvention of the sexual, romantic, and domestic life of a 45-year-old female artist. All Fours transcends expectations while excavating our beliefs about life lived as a woman. So the key words there for me are freedom, sexual reinvention, and female artist. Because my book is about a young woman artist, and it's about her quest for freedom, particularly sexual freedom, and also sort of reinventing her life sexually, reinventing her sexual life. So that is definitely one that I need to check out. Okay. Those are a couple good ones. The other one, two other ones came to mind in looking for new comps for this particular manuscript, and those are Good Girl. There it is. Good Girl by Aria, Aber. I don't know if that's how you pronounce her name. This one says, an electric debut novel about the daughter of Afghan refugees and her year of nightclubs, bad romance, makes me, I literally want to start singing Lady Gaga right now, and self-discovery. A portrait of the artist as a young woman set in a Berlin that can't escape its history. So the part that appeals to me is her year of self-discovery, portrait of the artist as a young woman. It's not stated explicitly, but I think it's pretty clear that some of the self-discovery is sexual and romantic. So this feels like a good comp. And I am almost positive it got nominated or shortlisted for some sort of award. Ooh, I like this tagline. A girl can get in almost anywhere, even if she can't get out. Wow, what a tagline. Okay, let's see. It doesn't say anything. Okay, I'm gonna have to do a search on Google. I'm gonna say Good Girl, Aria Aber Award. Let's see here. Okay, it was shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction. Okay, I knew it was. All right, for 2025, okay. 19-year-old Nila at last finds her tribe. Born in Germany to Afghan parents, raised in public housing, graffitied with swastikas. Drawn to philosophy, photography, and sex, Nila has spent her adolescence disappointing her family while searching for her voice as a young woman artist. This is definitely a comp. Okay, the last one that I want to check out is actually a book from a while ago. Has anybody read this book or heard of it? It's called Fish Tales by Nettie Jones. It is apparently a book that was first acquired by Toni Morrison back in the day when she was an editor at Random House, and it was originally published in 1984. the 80s, which is exactly the time frame of my manuscript too. So this this is definitely a comp. I gotta read all these books like right now. It's gonna be fine. Anyway, so this one is a bold exploration of the blurred line between love and control, pleasure and addiction. And it offers a glittering, devastating portrait of a woman's pursuit of her own kind of freedom. There we go. These are definitely key words: exploration, freedom, sex and desire and control, all of these things. I love it. Definitely got to read this. Plus, oh my gosh, it was acquired by the OG herself, Toni Morrison. What? Oh, this sounds so good. You know what? I just remembered it's actually on my holds at the library. So if I read it and like it, I'm definitely going to trot my little hiney down to Barnes & Noble and get my own copy. Okay, so, and the kicker, this seems to be like the, what's that expression, the $1 million word? Freedom. I mean, what can I say? I'm a Sag, baby. All right, that's it for the comps for that manuscript. Now we're going to look at some comps for the new one that I need to edit and reposition, resurrect and edit, and then resubmit. That one is the one I'm calling the 90s Summer Fling. First, I have The Writers and Lovers, which I kind of talked about earlier, because by Lily King, an author I had never heard of before, but she also has a new book that just came out that is on the Barnes & Noble Book Club pick for, was it October or November? I think it was October. And I just found out about it too late to get on that train and join the book club discussion. Very sad. But that one's called Heart the Lover. And it sounds like both books, The Writers and Lovers and Heart the Lover, have a lot of the same elements as this manuscript, including Love Triangle, which is a big one. College Love Triangle as well. Yeah. It says, known for witty and emotionally moving stories. Yeah, it was the October book club pick. Ghosts of a passionate college love triangle resurface, stirring up Jordan's life decades later. It sounds like these books fall definitely in what's I would call romantic fiction, or fiction with strong romantic elements, which I'm realizing now is probably squarely the category I fall into. And that was a whole process realizing that, because the marketing for that and the genre, all of that is completely different than romance. Not completely different, but because of the expectations for a romance novel, trying to position a book that's romantic, that's women's fiction with romantic elements as a romance, would be a misdirect for a lot of people, and certainly wouldn't help me reach my target audience, because even though a lot of romance readers might like romantic fiction, they're going to want to know before going into it that it's not structured like a romance, because there's a certain expectation with a romance structure that is not happening with romantic fiction. And if you're expecting that romance structure and you're not getting it, you're gonna have a pissed off reader, and that's easily avoidable by setting the expectations up ahead of time. So I was also thinking Renee Carlino. That was the other person, particularly, and I think this is being made into a movie. Wish You Were Here, because that says Love Triangle. And it was also compared to It Ends With Us as far as being like heart-wrenching. I think I'm gonna go ahead and add Wish You Were Here. It came out in 2015, it looks like. No, 2017. But this author also is still writing books. She just came out with another book, I think just last year, called This Used to Be Us, that I feel like might have gotten optioned for... Did it get optioned, or was it just that I saw somebody... Oh, you know what? I think I saw somebody else on BookTube say they love this book. Yeah, I think that's what it was. So, okay, we're on day 3 of getting all my data together for these new comps. All right, so I'm going to pick up with Candice Carty-Williams. Candice Carty-Williams broke out in 2019 with her book Queenie, which actually has been made into a Hulu series. I keep forgetting about that. Anyway, that one was one that I actually used as a comp in my querying for my erotic Cinderella, because it's Black woman's messy sexual journey, emotional self-actualization journey to healing after a bad breakup. So some similar themes with my story. It was featured in a Barnes & Noble email under the heading For the Character Journeys, and it was also on a list that included It Ends With Us, which is also one of my comps. So that is one that I already have been using. However, Candice Carty-Williams came out with another book called People Person that feels very different from Queenie, and therefore very different from the manuscript I was using Queenie as a comp for. But now I'm wondering if it could be a comp for my resurrected manuscript. Because that one, let me go to the Storygraph again. I don't know if it's like romantic or anything. It doesn't seem to be. It's under fiction, contemporary, emotional, funny. If you could choose your family, you wouldn't choose the Penningtons. That's a great tagline. I like that. Let's see. So it's about, it looks like it's a group of half siblings, 5 people. Okay. So it looks like they all share the same father, but have different mothers. Or at the very least, one of the characters shares a father and has a different mother. Yeah, it looks like this one is not a romantic fiction at all. It's more of a family drama, which could kind of be a comp because my other manuscript has a lot of family drama in it and a lot of family dynamics. That's a huge driver of the story. So this one might be a comp just for that reason alone. So let me add this. So I'm putting this a potential ALDS comp for the family dynamics and the humor, because that is definitely a quality characteristic of that manuscript. So I'm going to add that. Came out in 2022. I think I will add that one just to see, because sometimes, particularly with high level pitches, a lot of times that's why you use more than one comp. Like this book meets this book, because you're taking an aspect of one book and mixing it with an aspect of another book. So I feel like the humor and the family drama and the fact that this author's other book is a comp, I feel like this might be a real great lead for that reason. So I'm going to add this. I'm going to say family dynamics or family drama and humor. Okay, so I have 4 comps for this manuscript. Last but not least, I don't even know if this is a comp either. I think this author could be a comp because, so this is an author whose book, The Art of Scandal, I really liked. I did hear another booktuber say because, this goes back to expectations, right? They were expecting it to be like a straight up sexy romance. And I was like, but it was. But I think that this person felt there was more, it was too much more of the women's fiction aspect and not sexy romance enough for her. So I'm like, well, this could mean that this author's books is a comp because she writes that blend between women's fiction and romance where it kind of crosses over. So the exciting thing is I love The Art of Scandal. Oh, that's a pretty cover. I don't have that cover. Dang it. But this author just came out with August Lane, which is basically Black people in country music. Yay, Cowboy Carter coded, yes. I'm here for it. Plus it's about music and musicians, which I also love. It says a Black country music star who lied about writing his only hit risks his comeback to reunite with the woman he stole it from, a first love the lyrics won't let him forget. That sounds messy! OMG! Okay. I'm going to add this to my comps list just because this author is a potential comp, because they're kind of described as being a cross between romance and women's fiction. So I can't wait to read the second book. Yeah, I already have it on here. I have it actually as a comp for the manuscript I'm having to put aside for a while because that manuscript was about musicians. I'm putting it kind of as a comp because it's crossing that genre with romantic fiction. It's in that romantic fiction genre, potentially. We'll see. New York Times listed it as a romance. I think it's listed as a romance on Goodreads. And on the Storygraph, it's called a romance as well. Oh, and also there is some 90s references in here because the main character is, one of the characters is getting the chance to open for their 90s era idol. Yeah. Okay. So I think I have like my work cut out for me, at least as of right now, for updating my comp titles for my 2 manuscripts that are done and that we're trying to get out there. More things to read. I'm excited. So that is it for this vlog where I look at and pick out some new comp titles to check out for my manuscripts. Let me know in the comments if you have read or heard of any of these books that I mentioned. And if you have read them, let me know what genre you would place them in. Until next time, bye. One thing that I forgot to mention, when I went to Barnes & Noble, I did actually pick up one of the books that I was looking at, and that is this beauty right here, August Lane by Regina Black. I could not resist. It was, I think it was in the new and notable fiction section. Like when you walk in and there's all the tables, and then there's like a whole section that's like new nonfiction, and then there's another section that's like new, just recently released hardcovers. And I had looked everywhere. I looked at romance, I looked at the fiction section. I'm like, maybe, just maybe it's in that front area of new and notable. And it was. I was like, oh, there it is. I cannot wait to read this. And now I have lots of reasons to do so.